All right, all right, all right, all right. What's going on, everybody? Hey, how are we doing? I wanted to come back on here today. Today is obviously the 3rd of June, and I did a video yesterday where I discussed some truths that needed to be talked about, and pointed some fingers and talked about a direction that we need to go. However, I wanted to hop on here and clarify and talk about the things that I see that we need to do moving forward. And that's going to have a lot to do with removing the identity politics of things, and understanding what identity we actually need to, I guess, imbue upon ourselves, imbue upon our society, imbue upon our communities in order for us to work through the gambit of different levels of, I guess, and what I want to say, cultural warfare that we're facing today, right? So let's get into it, I guess, would be probably the best direction to go. That's the type of person I am. No frills, no shills. Maybe some shills every once in a while, but we'll see. We'll talk about that at the end. Anyway, so obviously everything that's going on with the riots right now, obviously everything's being misconstrued by the media in order to race bait and make it seem as though it's white people's fault, and this has everything to do with racism against Black people in the culture today. And what I talked about yesterday was, believe it or not, this has really nothing to do with race necessarily. It actually has a lot more to do with two different distinct cultures, right? That victim culture. This is something that the left, and we're going to talk a lot about right and left today. The left really likes to leech upon. They create an army and a faction of people via using this, well, using propaganda, using media, using school systems, universities, movies, the like. Everything is being bombarded into people's minds right now to identify with their race, and that is their identity, and belonging to this white supremacist systematic racism America that it only helps benefit the white man. They want you to believe that shit. And like I said, that is the culture. And believe it or not, what the culture is trying to do is it's using these droves of drones, essentially, because these are people that no longer have a personal identity. They want to buy into one specific, distinct identity group in order for them to not have to take responsibility for themselves. That's what they're looking for. Why? Because if they have a bunch of people that don't identify as a self-actualized individual who wants to take control of their own life, lead their life in the direction they want to go, make their own choices, and reap the benefits of their consequences, whatever they may be, then someone needs to be at the helm of the ship driving the boat. And essentially what it all comes down to, and we will even talk about this with the right is just way far behind on it, but really what it comes down to is it is a means in order to create a totalitarian, whether it be socialist or communist state. That's the direction they're going. They want to isolate power. They want to isolate the economy. They want to isolate your spending. They want to isolate the way that you vote, the way that you think, into this category, and into this direction, so that these people, right, the ones that are kind of pulling the strings on all this stuff, they're going to have you be loyal ideologues for their purpose and for their cause. Now, really what that comes down to is that is insanely anti-American. And that's what we're starting to see with all these riots, these protests, the coronavirus bug, the crashing of the economy, fucking insane spending that's going on with the government and so forth. It is all a means to get people fearful, to separate, to point the fingers at the lowest level of things, right? Whether it be race, or whether it be religion, or whether it be class and status, however that may be. They want you pointing the fingers at each other and picking fights and infighting, rather than directing the focus at who's really pulling the strings here and what they're trying to do. So what is the solution with all this, right? So again, another thing, and that's kind of what it comes down to, is it's, people versus the cops, people versus the military, Black versus white. Now it's the whole intersectional wave of things. It's gay versus straight. It's all this other shit, right? It's fucking crazy. Like, we are in the midst of a culture war, right? People want to say civil war. It's not that clean cut. It's a culture war. There's various means, there's various degrees by which different cultures are operating, and they're all vying for the top position in order to rain down upon the masses of people of what they believe should be the predominant culture here in the United States. And this is where the solution comes in, right? And this is where I've also had many a prediction. Well, this is me predicting it. I don't believe that the United States of America is going to survive this. And I think that, I mean, the writing's on the wall. Our US dollar is going to tank because of hyperinflation due to all this fucking insane borrowing and spending, fucking Federal Reserve, all this other shit. If you guys don't know what's going on with all that, right now, it's a slow decline because, believe it or not, what's going on is the stock market is being propped up from all those dollars that were spent. So it's not looking like a crash like it was in 1929, right? So that people don't go to the banks and pull out all their money, so that people don't pull out their money from stocks and all that other shit. Anyway, I digress, but this is the stuff that's going on. Now, how do we fix it? What's the direction that we need to go, and where do I see us going? Well, first and foremost, as I discussed yesterday, the big thing that we do need to get over is we need to get rid of that victim mentality. We need to get rid of that, I guess, the ideology of belonging to one specific ideologue in a way, right? That kind of mindset. And also what it comes down to is we need to get rid of the belief that the government is here to protect us, and it's here to support us, and it's here to kind of prop me up into this social hierarchy based off of my victimhood points, because that's essentially what the left is trying to do. And I'm pointing a lot of fingers at the left. Don't worry, I will get to the right. I have my fucking qualms with them. But right now, the biggest destructive force in the world, right, especially when it comes to America, but in the world to the West, is these liberal progressives that are just, they don't really have a sound, rational way forward. Instead, it's just going to be constant infighting. This is why and how communism always leads to just mass amounts of death, because everyone's going to always be an enemy, right? There's a couple sayings about that out there. There's like what is it? Like there's blood in streets. It always ends with blood in the streets or something like that. So check that out. I don't know the quote verbatim right now. And I got this little kid that's running around upstairs driving me fucking nuts. Anyway, so not my kid either. I don't have those. So what's the way forward? How do we move forward? Now, yesterday I discussed this aspect and I said, people need to read the Constitution. People need to read the Constitution. Why? Well, because that's the best document that we have thus far up to this point that highlights people's inalienable rights, and also the rights of pretty much how a government should be run. Now, there's a lot of stuff in there that I disagree with as far as how big the government has gotten, and that's some of the stuff that we need to cleanse out of here. Moving forward, what do I see? Like I said, I see America essentially getting balkanized, and we need to break down into smaller communities, probably city-states and so forth. And I know that sounds kind of scary. I don't know how that's going to work out either. There's going to be probably a lot more like small conflicts. I don't want to call them wars, but there's going to be war for territories and resources and so forth. And what it's going to be able to do, though, is it's going to be able to separate people into these distinct factions of how they see reality, how they believe in politics, and then live amongst themselves, and then essentially create their own societies. And frankly, I see nothing wrong with that. I had an interesting conversation with a guy on my channel in the comment section of that last video. And he talked about how it's going to be insanely difficult, and he's Black. He talked about how it's going to be insanely difficult for the majority of Black people to start to identify as being an individual and try to take care of themselves and build themselves up. He said there's probably two options. Either people wake up enough and try to choose this direction, try to be the best versions of themselves possible, be role models for their community and so forth, or we need to break down into, no kidding, like Black communities and have other Black leaders that have been successful with capitalism and so forth invest in these communities and make it an all Black community. And I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with there being a distinct Black community. Seriously, if people want to break down into doing something like that and have it just be like an ethnocentric little city state, awesome. More power to you. Why? Muhammad Ali talks about this in one of his interviews. The large majority of people really do want to be ethnocentric. Why? Because there's more trust there. We already have in-group preference. It's true. I myself even have it. And I see it happen every once in a while as well. Obviously I'm a little bit more, I hate to say this about myself, but I'm a little bit more advanced when it comes to being able to, uh, see the true motives behind myself and behind other people and behind groups and behind societies and behind nations and all this other stuff, right? That's just has a lot to do with how I've grown up and having to see a lot of these fucking things. And it's crazy because my mind never fucking stops. Obviously, you guys can tell from how and all the shit that I talk about on this channel. But anyway, what it comes down to is if that's going to lead to more trust and cohesion and the ability for people to prosper, I see nothing wrong with that. I don't see an issue. If the black community wants to fucking keep it all black and all they want to do is have black babies and continue their fucking genetics that way, awesome. More power to you. Seriously. More power to you. One of my big things though is this: if you want to be left the fuck alone and you want to sit there and be able to prosper on your own, don't start no shit, won't be one. Or won't be none. Don't start none, won't be none. Right? That's for anybody. That's not just for fucking black people. That's not just for whatever. But here's the other thing too, is if you want to have your own distinct group of people, your own little ethnostate or whatever, you can't complain if somebody else wants to do that too. Can't complain if it's a bunch of Chinese that want to fucking, just go, I hate to say this, just go back to China. That's kind of how it is. But I get it, especially if you want to live by an American ideal. That's where we're going to get with this. But if white people want to get together and have only white communities, that's not racist. Like, this is shit we got to fucking get out there and start talking about. Like, yes, there's in-group preference. Yes, it's okay for a specific, well, first off, we all belong to the same race, right? The human race. But if white people only want to mix with white people, that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, though, as long as you don't start none, won't be none. Don't go fucking trying to wipe people out over there unless if they haven't started anything, right? Like, that's the only reason and the only way that conflict should start is if someone's trying to start shit with you. So only time. And none of this contrived bullshit of like, oh, well, we think that those guys are going to try to fucking wipe us out, so therefore we're going to. No, that's bullshit. That's one of the biggest reasons why these wars that we've been in since fucking probably Korea, but I haven't really done too much research into Korea. But definitely since the Vietnam War, all this shit has been bullshit. All those wars have been, and this is why we kind of have this karma coming back at us as the United States is concerned. All of those wars have been some form or faction, corporate backed means to fucking grow the economy and get our fucking sticky fingers involved somewhere else. Of course, oh, it was to stop the spread of communism and all that other bullshit. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You shouldn't start conflicts just to fucking benefit your pockets. And that's where America went wrong. And I'm going to talk about that too in a little bit. But that's where we went wrong as a fucking country, is we started to get way too fucking greedy. And we stopped worrying about taking care of our shit back at home, living by the ethos of what America is, right? Getting back to understanding freedom and the responsibility of maintaining freedom, right? Even if you're just the beacon of freedom, you don't have to go around fucking sending freedom bombs to places in the Middle East and all this other shit. If those attacks were real, I kind of get it, but they weren't. Let's be honest about that shit too, right? Those were all contrived. Kind of like what we're seeing with the coronavirus, what we're seeing with going on with these riots, all this shit's contrived. It's a means to control your fucking mind so that you fucking look more and more to the state to go and do things. And meanwhile, what they're doing each and every step of the way is removing more and more of your rights. So essentially what happens is every single time people react to these types of situations and then beg the government to do more, we're just voting ourselves more and more into slavery, into tyrannical control. It sucks. It's stupid. So that's another reason why I don't foresee this government lasting. It's getting too big. It's getting too totalitarian, and people are something's gonna happen. Something has to happen, right? We as a species are not meant to be enslaved at that level for sure. right? That's the next thing. There's always going to be some level of feeling of slavery, right? It's kind of always going to be that way. And what I mean by that is, let's get into this aspect of what I'm trying to discuss here. People will sit here and say, oh, this is a race war. We've already covered that. No, this isn't a race war, even though there's different cultures. And that's where it really comes down to. This doesn't have anything really to do with race. That shit's been done and over with for some time. We've already gone through like 2 or 3 generations since the civil rights movement and so forth. We've kind of gotten that out of our system. Is there still racism? Absolutely. Is it as prominent as what people are saying right now today? No, it's not. Is America systemically racist? No, it isn't. Shut the fuck up about this stuff, right? There's only one level of equality here in this world. There's only one level of equality, and it's equality under the law, justice, right? Now, most of you will sit here and say, well, prior to the civil rights movements and so forth, there were all sorts of fucking things that were unjust against black people and so forth. You're right. You're right. The majority of that shit has changed. So if it's changed and all your protests and all this stuff has changed it, there's no more need to fucking protest against it. But yet every single day, there's still people fucking trying to live in this heyday of the civil rights movement and point out all these things. Like today, I saw a video, and of course, like I talked about yesterday with cops, like fucking mostly over aggressive assholes and all this other shit. And I'm all about fucking demilitarizing them and teaching them to be more, But this one cop in Florida, white dude, of course, this is what happens. This white dude is surrounded by all these black dudes screaming and yelling at him and stuff. And he looks charged and he looks heat up. But then all of a sudden he got surrounded and he tried to back up. And when he turns around, there's somebody kneeling behind him. There's someone like laying on the ground and he's trying to get away out of this swarm of people, and he pushes the person to the ground. And of course, it looked like he was angry, but it could also have been fear. And he pushes the person to the ground. It wasn't that big of a deal. He just like moved them aside. And then all of a sudden, this now has turned into a big fucking, again, racist cop and all this other shit type of deal. It's like, when it comes to this shit, you really got to pick your fights. You can't sit here constantly and fucking cry and bitch and moan about all this shit. And like, it goes back to yesterday where it's like, black people, you guys want to fucking sit there and bitch and moan about fucking everything all the fucking time. It's like people are going to get goddamn sick of it. Like, shut the fuck up. Choose your fucking battles, right? Choose your fucking battles. And unfortunately, that wasn't a good fucking battle to choose. Now it's just turning into, again, hey, liberal white people, hey, government, come and save us and make us be the fucking victims again and all this other shit, and never taking accountability for your shit. It's like, stop. Fuck that. We can't live in a community together if there isn't some level of fucking trust. And the trust comes down to telling the fucking truth, being realistic about this stuff. So anyway, going back to where I'm at with this. So it's not about race. The division here isn't about race. It shouldn't be, at least. That's low level stuff. And believe it or not, there's always going to be some level of, There's always going to be some level of tension between people when they're in mixed company, so to speak. Honestly, right? It's just the way it is. It's just, there's always going to be some level to it. And again, going back to it, most people do have an in-group preference towards their own skin color, which means that they actually hold more trust towards people that look similar to them. This is biological. This is genetic. It's a hard thing to turn off. It's not saying that people are inherently racist. It's just saying there's an in-group preference. There's a preference. Which is kind of funny because I make fun of white women all the time. So, and it's true though, because they're just fucking out there. They're out there as far as their fucking quote unquote privilege is concerned, right? It's like, and then of course they pretend as though they don't, and they're just these majestic fucking ever-loving beings that are here to take care of everybody on earth. So not a race war. Okay, so then what does it come down to? It's a class war then. Well, here's the other thing, and here's the other issue with that, is it does have a lot to do with class, but we can't pick that as the thing to change. Why? Because there's always going to be classes. Just like there's always going to be tension between races, there's always going to be classes, and there's always going to be tension among the classes. But here's the problem. And this is the other aspect of it, right? Right now it's capitalism versus communism. And that's kind of where that whole, it's like, all right, what economic foundation do we have? Well, I vote communism. I do. Or sorry, I vote communism. I vote capitalism. And I vote, what's it called? I vote free market capitalism. And that's something I'm going to discuss here in a little bit. I vote free market capitalism. The problem with the type of capitalism that we're running right now, believe it or not, and some people would even say this, we're not really running a democracy here in the United States any longer, and we're not really running true capitalism. Of course, everybody will be like, oh, we never tried true communism. It's like, fuck that shit. That's caused fucking millions and millions, hundreds of millions of deaths. We don't need that shit. Oh, capitalism. Yeah, but it's lower. All right. Now, the problem with the capitalism that we're dealing with today, and this is where we're going to have to talk about responsibility in the future, is we're running what's known as crony capitalism. It's where the corporations are getting together with the politicians, and the lobbyists, these corporate lobbyists, are essentially writing the fucking laws, and then they're sponsoring this type of shit, and then they're putting the names of the representatives on the paper, right? And it has everything to do with like the fact that, hey, we're going to put aside this money for you, or hey, we donated to your campaign, and so on and so forth, right? So it's like, it is total, people bitch and moan about that whole quid pro quo thing. It's all quid pro quo and fucking in DC right now. It's like, they're not there to represent you. They're there to get ahead. They're there to schmooze with these fucking corporations that are now international. They're international fucking entities that are making buku dollars and expanding their power internationally. And now you got these politicians that are in fucking DC, and they're like, oh yeah, let's put it through. Let's put it through. And then they solidify their class, they solidify their wealth, they solidify their power, and they sell all of us out underneath them. Now, in a free market economy with capitalism, the beauty of that, and this is what is going wrong with where we're at today, we can see this crony capitalism because guess what? In 2008, when we had that bailout, which is now called quantitative easing, these companies should have gone under. These large companies, the fucking, what's it called? The airlines, the banks, the fucking mortgage companies and so forth, even those big car companies, they should have gone under. Why? Why should they have gone under? Because they were irresponsible with their balance sheets. They were irresponsible with how they ran their business. They played way too fast, and they played way too loose. Guess what? There's always going to be economic booms and economic busts, especially when you have a free market. Always going to happen. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. There's going to be peaks and there's going to be troughs. That's the cycle of fucking nature. The thing about troughs and the beauty of why these things happen, and it's essentially what's going on right now. If we're going to look at it spiritually, fucking whatever you guys want to call it, physically, whatever, right? We're in a trough right now. We're in a trough as far as like morals and virtue and all this other shit, right? But the beauty of troughs and the beauty of nature is when things are the weakest, it creates strong people. And the people that that have built the right foundations and have done the right things, and this applies to business as well, those are the people that are now able to succeed and thrive in the new economy, right? This is how nature balances itself out. It's how everything balances itself out. This is a reflection of the universe. So when you create these phony schemes, right, you create these phony markets, and you have all your crony buddies pretty much inflating everything and propping everything up, and you get too big to fail is the term that's used. You've now manipulated the direction and the actual way by which nature has intended things to happen. And that's kind of another thing that's playing into all this. People are sick and tired of doing their hardest and working their hardest. Now, both father and wife have to work full-time jobs. They're barely home. Kids are fucking never around, right? They barely got enough money to fucking make it. They're doing their best to try to thrive. And guess what? the system just continues to fucking destroy them. Because guess what? All these people at the top that are just raking in, you're never going to be able to compete with them because they've created a system that you can't compete in. The shit's rigged, right? All the shit's fucking rigged. So people are fucking furious. People are furious, and they're trying to point the finger at what the hell is making them so fucking pissed off. And, you know, years and years of fucking, what's it called? Subversion, right? Years and years of propaganda say, oh, it's because of my race. It's not because you're fucking race. It's not. Oh, it's because I was born poor. It's not. That's not the way it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, right? That's not what you should be pissed off about, because in the sense of what America, and this is where we're going to go with the direction that things should go, in the sense of what America was founded on, it was the most beautiful principles in the fact that you could be born poor, but you can change your class via capitalism. And that's the beauty of capitalism. But the problem is, like I said, they've completely manipulated the money. They took us off the gold standard. So money, right? Money isn't real anymore. There's a difference between money and currency. Thank you, Mike Maloney, right? And I'm going to quote him a little bit more, right? Our money used to be backed by something. Now it just gets printed. And the fucking shitty part with it getting printed, this currency, is it has really no true value. And now it's easily able to be manipulated. The worst part is there's fucking interest rates associated to all this other stuff. The money you have in the bank right now, especially with, if we go to fucking zero interest rate, you're going to be paying the bank to fucking to hold on your money. It's just, you're fucked. You're fucked because you're not part of this fucking social elite that has rigged the game. But it has nothing to do with class. Why? Because capitalism requires there to be classes. There's a upper class, there's a middle class, and there's a lower class. And the beauty of that is, if you're low class and you figure out something that provides a service to the market that people want to purchase, you can elevate yourself from low class to high class. Now, if you're born in a caste system like in India, you're born into communism where you're dictated and controlled by the government to fit into this and everyone gets paid the same, there's no ability for people to fucking rise and fall. But the problem with all that stuff is when you have a thing like a caste system or you have a thing like communism, it doesn't allow natural talent and natural ability to naturally rise to the top. And the free market really truly is the only thing that sees no fucking, it sees no color. It's the only thing out there. It doesn't see race. It doesn't see religion. It doesn't see any of that shit. It's the only thing out there that is truly just, is a free market. Now, the second thing that we could talk about, like I said, is justice. The only way that equality can really happen is if there's a law and someone breaks it, regardless of your sex, your race, your fucking religion, whatever the fuck, you get the penalty. You receive the penalty for the type of crime that you commit. That's the only place that equality can really exist. It's logic. You do fucking X, you receive Y. Now, of course, no form of justice is ever that black and white, right? There's always extenuating circumstances and all this other shit. But one of the biggest things that's plaguing us in today's world is, especially when it comes down to it, and I got to be honest with you here, females get off scot-free usually for fucking egregious acts. Egregious. They serve what, 1/4 the fucking time that a man would serve for the same fucking crime? Most of the time their crimes are swept under the rug, and that's why statistics show that women are fucking less violent, which isn't true. You know? One big thing that I got to talk about now is this. Women do things socially to men that men do physically to women. So there needs to be an equal form of law, equal form of justice for a woman doing something socially to a man that he does physically to her, i.e. rape, i.e. sexual assault, i.e. defamation of character, harassment. There needs to be equal punishments for those things. Anyway, so what's the direction moving forward, as I said? All right, so like I said, there's the capitalism versus communism thing, We've got that part covered. We've gotten the race thing covered. We've gotten the class thing covered, right? Classes are always going to exist. This isn't a class war. There's a little bit to play with it, though, as I mentioned, with these crony capitalists that are sitting all the way at the top. Now, the way forward, like I said, is this. And this might be hard to do. I think that we're going to need a bit of a reset. And I'm hoping that a lot of these things that are going on right now are waking people up to understand that the way that we do business in the future needs to come from a more moral standing, right? Everyone's responsible for their own actions, because otherwise, if they're not, then it's going to tip the scales back into this form of chaos that we're seeing today. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's say we do have a free market, and let's say I become a multi-billionaire / trillionaire, right? And we do have some level of influence. I would like to keep things very low on the politics. I don't believe in politics. I think politics are stupid. So we try to limit government as much as possible. But if I'm the type of person that, given my wealth, and I have the ability to do all sorts of different things and manipulate certain things, I have to refrain myself from doing those things. Does it make sense? So moving forward, the way that I see it is this, and I'll explain, because this is, so I presented this little case right here, but I got to kind of give you an idea and understanding how to lump it all together. I think moving forward, what needs to happen is we have to have a national identity. All right. So nationalism. And I said this yesterday, we need to be on Team America. Now, the problem with that, and this is where I'm going to go with this, is now people are going to sit there and they're going to say, oh my God, you're a nationalist. You're a nationalist. That's what you believe. Yeah, well, in a way I am. Absolutely. I think America is the best country on the planet. I think the Constitution is the best document that we have thus far. The problem with nationalism, though, is that nationalism can turn into a fascist state just based off of people loving the state. And if you don't understand who I am as a person, and if you don't understand really what the Constitution is, the Constitution and myself as a person, I am anti-state. I'm anti-state. As crazy as that might sound. So what does that mean, right? It means that I'm not trying to, and people should not try to create an identity where people just buy into the flag or the national anthem or I am American, right? And sit there around these flags and these banners and so forth and be happy about this. This is what's wrong with the right. This is what's wrong with the right wing, right? They've kind of turned down their fucking individual sovereignty and just bought into the notion of, I'm American. Oh, you burn that flag, I'm going to stomp your face. Stand up and take your hat off for the national anthem. Love your military, love your cops, love Republican Party and so forth. Yeah, that's America. It's like, that's not fucking America, you stupid fuck. You're essentially, that's just being a fucking bootlicker. You're all about growing the military, growing the police force, spending fucking more money and all this other shit that's not yours, right? Just allowing the government to fucking grow and grow and grow. It's like the most American thing that can possibly happen is being anti-fucking state. Checking the fucking government at every goddamn turn, policing the police and so forth. That's American. Not letting the government grow beyond what it should grow to be. Like I said, I guess what I'd be considered is more of like a minarchist in that sense, right? It's like there's certain things that should be run by the government. Not very much. There's not very many, right? Privatizing as much as fucking possible. That will boost a fucking free market for sure, right? There's some semblance, some things I believe that there should be a little bit of a government for, i.e. military. I think there should be a national military. And I get into that in my book a little bit. And I'm developing a new book right now to kind of highlight the direction a new society and a new civilization should go. But I also do believe, and the reason why I believe in the military is because I think it's the best training for men. Men need to be trained to be warriors, and they also need to learn about freedom. When you're in the military, you learn a lot about freedom because you don't have a whole lot. It's how I developed my sense of freedom, on top of going to different places and seeing different shit. Now, other than that, and of course, I do absolutely believe in people having a militia. The people should be equally as armed as the police and the military. But anyway, I'm going off on a fucking tangent. What it comes down to is this nationalist worldview, or this nationalist view. I'm about my country. I'm about what we stand for as an identity, right? That's the center. That's the foundation of how it should be, like I talk about. And it should be about individual rights, individual freedoms, promoting freedom as much as possible. Of course, as I write my new book and I have new ideas, and I'll probably start talking about these more often because I have a reason behind why I have different things set up there. But what this comes down to is this is the only way to defeat the mindset that is out there when it comes to these other lower level forms of identity, right? Race, the political parties, socialism, communism versus capitalism, and so forth. And it's the only way to have some level of social cohesion is if we do fly all under one flag, but each and every individual is responsible for understanding their rights and their freedoms and protecting those for themselves and their neighbors. So we need to simplify it. That's really what it comes down to. And the next thing is this: we as a nation no longer should we be the type of people that become the world police. I'm not here to protect any other fucking country. You guys do you. We'll do me. If we need to do some business, I'll reach out and I'll propose some type of fucking business contract to you. That's the way to rock and roll. The next thing, though, is this. And what that will come down to as well is if we go back to a more nationalistic type of view, our corporations, and if we welcome it, right? If we have a free market here in America and we welcome these corporations, or we have these corporations here in our country, and we limit restriction as much as possible, this would make it so that our corporations remain American, tied to the ethos of their nation, instead of trying to usurp it and destroy it like it's doing today. Because let's be honest, a lot of these major corporations, these titans of industry, these Silicon Valley type things, right? These fucking tech companies and so forth, they're glued directly to China, and they can't do things. They can't do certain things without ruining those relations. And the way that China's manipulating it right now is that they want to destroy America. They want to destroy America from within. And these major tech companies are fucking in a way enslaved to these guys. It's like, well, what do? We get cheaper labor over there. We get better fucking tech from them because they produce all this stuff, XYZ. Or do we suck it up and stay here? And it's like, well, there's too many fucking restrictions and it costs too much damn money, right? It's like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I understand their predicament, but at the same time too, a lot of those people are just far left wing and they're all about communism. So they're all about selling out our country. So that part's fucked. So moving forward, it needs to be one of those things where we have, as a country, right? Let's say it doesn't break down to city states and so forth, even though, like I said yesterday, I think that it should be some level of, we need to break things down to the lowest common level and let people thrive communally again and go from there, build up instead of shit down. But what we need to do as a nation, if we do have this small level of government, is we need to incentivize our corporations to continue to believe and continue to invest in the American identity, right? And with that level of power and responsibility that they have, not sell out the identity. And you have to do that through different types of incentives, honestly. And that's why I'm a big fan of reducing restriction. The consumer, if a company is doing something wrong, the consumer should know. And that's the beauty of the internet today. We have all these people that can write reviews and do fucking independent journalism and talk about all the fucked up things that these people are doing. And then the American people can vote with their dollar by not buying into their products anymore. And then you let that system fail. You let that system fall, right? They fucked up. That's the beauty of the free market. The market dictates who's important, what's important, and so forth. And if you have a corporation that is turning against the American ideal and people stop spending their money, you let them fail, right? There's beauty to this. There's simplicity to it. It's fair. And that's really what it comes down to is people desire fairness now. People desire justice. And we're not getting that. And that's why people are really mad. So wrapping this all up into a nice little bow, again, like what I talk about, essentially really what it comes down to is we need to understand everything about really what the Constitution preaches. I believe as far as minimal government, being anti-state, being an individual, a sovereign individual, not having the government interfere with our economy. Mike Maloney talks about it. Free markets, free people, sound money. That is what I would run on if I were running for president of the United States. Free markets, free people, sound money. The problem is most people don't understand any of those things, and most people are scared of those concepts. People don't understand what a free market is. People don't really respect freedom, and people don't understand money, right? So I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in understanding any of those terms, please do go to goldsilver.com or check out Mike Maloney on YouTube. He's become one of my favorites. I listen to Robert Kiyosaki, Patrick Bet-David, all these other guys. Manny Hoshbin, even though he doesn't really have too much to do with what I'm talking about here, but I'm just throwing out some people that I really enjoy listening to. And they've gotten my mind really wrapped around economics and understanding how to thrive and all this other stuff. So that was total sidebar, by the way. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this whole thing. Please do. Also, here's one of the big things. I need you guys to share. Like that video yesterday that I did, share it. Share it with other people. If you agree with my thoughts, if you agree with the thoughts here, share it. Like, we need to have these conversations. We need people to fucking start standing up, putting their foot down, planting their flag, saying, yes, I align with this guy's views. Other people should align with this too. Let's get the conversation started. If not, and let's build the fucking snowball effect from here. Like, I need you guys to fucking share. The next thing and the last thing that I'll talk about is, I think the best way forward, honestly, is not like me running for political office, not me becoming super fucking popular or anything like that. I think the best way forward is to start building a community or a wellness center that are in line with the views that I'm talking about right now. And what that entails me to do is obviously raise up a lot of money, buy the proper land, and then set up this nonprofit wellness center, nonprofit organization, wellness center, and then bring people to it. So I need fucking dollars. I need donations. And you guys can donate in the comment section below. You'll see, or in the description below, you'll see some different categories, but I'll just give it to you right now. www.paypal.me/Corey Capella. If you want to see actionable results on how to start moving this shit forward. So like I said, share this. Someone needs to hear this fucking information. And I'm sure there are people out there that would love to see some type of actual actionable fucking results based off of this. So donate as well. All right, I'm out.